Welcome back to the Pause Purpose Play podcast with me, your host, Michaela Thomas, your expert on all things compassion, perfectionism, and ADHD. And in this episode, I will talk to you about something that a lot of ADHDers really struggle with, but equally also a lot of perfectionists. And it's the concept of rest. I know it's really hard. I know you're going to struggle against this and you don't want to listen to this episode because you have better things to do. You are busy, right? You want to get more stuff done. So I'm going to tell you something. It's like the best kept secret of high performance athletes, artists, people who need to achieve, who need to do things and get things done. And that is rest. Rest unlocks your ability to achieve more things. So stay with me. If this episode title even makes you go, no, don't worry. I'm not going to go all fluffy on you. I'm going to teach you some of the things that I talk about inside Burn Bright, but also what I've done in my recent Spacious Year Challenge, the Facebook challenge I ran, which was so useful to so many, just having a few small tidbits around rest. I'm not going to give away everything that I did in that Side Out challenge because I really liked running it and I'm going to run it again at some point. But I'm going to give you some of the things that I noticed of how hard it is for us to give ourselves that permission for rest and how we have a resistance to rest and why that rest can even act as a rebellion or resistance in itself. So let's think about what we're going to cover today. I will try to bullet point it for you because, ain't nobody got time for that in terms of keeping all the notes. And I will try to do a summary at the end because I want it to be clear to you. If you're listening to this whilst you're out walking, there will be a takeaway message, right? So I'm trying to structure my podcast a little bit more. So here we go. Let's think about why this is important. Why do we think about resistance to rest and rest as resistance? Well, it is really important. Why? Because when burnout figures are increasing for women, especially women in senior leader positions who are juggling work life with parenting young children because of the immense amount of unpaid invisible labor they do in terms of household management and childcare, can we then think about affording not to rest if the burnout rates are this high? So this episode is about rising up against the burnout culture by using rest as a form of resistance against the patriarchal pressure of perfection. So join the rebellion, my friend. Why is rest an act of resistance? Well, it's because of this pressure that the patriarchy places on us. It makes it really hard to allow ourselves the permission to rest. But together, forming this movement that we do in Pause Purpose Play, we can rise up against that pressure, against that good girl conditioning that dictates that you need to do all the things, be all the things, have all the things really, really fast. And it needs to be perfect. So I want to ask you a few questions in this episode. I've been thinking about these questions and writing them down beforehand. So I actually didn't just press record this time. I actually had a thought. I'll keep it fresh for you. I try to mix it up. But I have these questions for you, so it might be helpful to have a pen and paper if you are able to sit down and focus and give yourself a break and rest for a few minutes. If you are just out walking or doing other things, still try to pause. Try to pause for a moment and really think about these questions. Because then you get more out of this episode rather than just tick, I've finished listening to a podcast episode. Great, good work. But that's just performative, right? We want this to be connected to what really matters to you. And this bit about the resting and the pausing is the bit that people often gloss over. Well, I don't really need to do that. Let's get to the meaty stuff, right? This is the meaty stuff. So I'm going to ask you the first question now. What pressure do you have around you or inside you that tells you that you cannot rest? What pressure do you have around you or inside you that tells you that you cannot rest? Is it old patterns from childhood? Maybe you've watched a mother who was always at it with a broom, or a father who was always working overtime. Yes, those are very gender stereotyped images, because you might have, like me, grown up in the 80s or 90s where those things were more polarized. So maybe this is what you thought a woman was doing. Maybe you had a mother who juggled work with keeping a tidy home and had to do all of that perfectly, because getting support from someone else wasn't really a thing. So what pressure do you have around you or inside you that tells you that you cannot rest? Is it these rules, these expectations, these modeled patterns of behavior that you've watched? What is it? Is it coming from within you, or anything you've carried with you, or is it coming from outside of you, around you, what you witness other people do? Those women that you think are smashing it, doing it all, maybe they're not. So that was my first question for you. This pressure that tells you you cannot rest. Okay? And now I want to think a little bit about the negative impact of resisting rest. And then I want to think about the positive impact of inviting rest in as resistance against burnout. Okay, so the negative impact of resisting rest on you and on others. Who are you, and who are you being when you don't make space for rest? Right? What version of you shows up in the world when you haven't rested? If you've been pushing yourself, spinning all the plates, you've been kind of going from Monday to Sunday, and it's just go, go, go. Had a bank holiday weekend, didn't rest for that either. You just took the opportunity to catch up on jobs or, doing all this stuff instead of sitting down in an armchair, reading a book for a moment in the sunshine, like I did in that brief moment of sunshine that we did have. What would your behavior be like if you were constantly depleted? So let's think about the negative impact of you resisting rest. What happens that's negative? So my question here is actually twofold. What are the negative impacts of you resisting rest? Who are you being? Or who are you not being? For me, it's patience goes. Patience and compassion. That goes much more quickly when I'm not rested. When my battery is not charged, I notice myself being more irritable and less able to be patient with the things that I need to be patient with for my children, and less likely to give the reasonable adjustments and accommodations that my child needs. So who am I being? Impatient mum. Not compassionate mum. Authoritarian mum. The not mother I want to be. So the second question there is, what gets in the way of you pausing and resting? If we can establish that not resting makes you not great, not resting makes you shouty mum or irritable spouse or whatever it might be, that's a negative impact. When you're depleted, it makes you be someone you don't want to be. So then what's getting in the way of you pausing? That pressure that you're needing to have that resistance against and to rise up against. So ask yourself that. What's the negative impact of you resisting rest, and what gets in the way of you pausing? So if you're not already taking notes, make a mental note. If this plants a seed somewhere, you're not ready to do the journaling on this, you're not ready to take the action around it, great, it's fine. Start where you're at. If planting this little seed gets you thinking, great. Let's go with that. So then I want to think about essentially the positive impact of rest. So the negative impact of resisting rest is you become depleted and not acting like the person you want to be. The positive impact of you inviting the rest in, well, hopefully you keep burnout at bay. Not only is it great for your mental and physical well-being to rest, because we're not built like robots, we're not machines, and even machines need downtime for maintenance. Even robots need to reboot once in a while. But the interesting thing of it is that, and I'm hoping to speak to that bit of you that went, okay, fine, I'll listen to this episode. Because you said something about me being more effective and getting more done, right? If you want to get more stuff done, you need to rest. Because you'll be more effective and you will waste less time scrolling and randomly procrastinating, doing crap you shouldn't be doing. Because you're not so depleted. So the question I have for you here for this section is, thinking about your most effective days you've had, the ones where you have felt you've, smashed it, nailed it, slayed it, whatever the phrase is these days with the lingo with the kids, the days where you felt really on it. Were they the days where you felt depleted and rushed off your feet? Or were they the days where you felt energized and on fire with ideas and action because you had to slow down for a bit for that to click in? Because essentially, when you slow down, you will speed up overall. Rushing means entering into a threat state. And that means that you actually feel so rushed off your feet that you will get less done to a poorer standard and quality, even if you have a go at all. Even if you try at all. So rushing is not necessarily going to help you be more effective. You might think you're ticking more things off your to-do list, but again, I know you care about your standard of things. It will make you less good in your quality. So essentially, when you slow down, you will speed up overall. You will go towards those ambitious, stretchy goals faster because it's more sustainable. It's not crash and burn. It is not burnout. It is slow and steady, movement in a aimed direction that is intentional and not about burnout. So resting and recovering actually helps us feel safe. When we're in that threat state, resting and recovering helps to soothe that threat state. And that helps us to achieve our ambitious goals, because we will not do that when we're in a threat state. And even if we did achieve our goals from that threat state, from that space of must do, quicker, faster, next, simply because we pushed through and resisted rest, we pay the price for that ambition further down the line. Partly because of how we feel, how our body says no, because you burnt out, but partly also because of the good stuff that's not there, the joy that's missing, the pride that never comes, because you don't feel good about the achievements you have had. You're just looking for the next one. And that's why I wanted to tell you about the Pause, Purpose, Play mini-mind that I'm doing. A mini mastermind of a maximum 7 to 12 women gathered together in a group where we're working through the 4 pillars that I teach. Pause, Purpose, Play, and Permission. So listen to what I've got to say about that a little bit more. You're more than welcome to skip it if you don't want to hear it, but really do. Don't get caught up in the I must be so effective that I am utilizing and optimizing every second of my time. Take a moment to listen to it, and I'll see you right back afterwards. So let me tell you about the Pause, Purpose, Play mini mastermind. What is it? Well, it's a mini mastermind, which means mini group coaching, of 4 group coaching sessions on Zoom with a maximum of 12 women to help ambitious women reconnect with themselves and set up some simple tools and actions to calm the overwhelm and to create some space for themselves. Who doesn't need that? What do the sessions contain? Well, each coaching session is themed around my pillars, one for pause, one for purpose, one for play, and the final one is on permission, which is that thing, that linchpin that holds them all together and actually unlocks you doing the practices to actually look after yourself. Because otherwise you can be taught all the things and not actually give yourself the permission to use them. We will cover mindfulness skills of pausing and noticing. We'll get clear on your core values, what really matters to you, and we'll give you the permission to invite more fun into your life. And what's the outcome of these 4 sessions? Well, it will give you a starting point towards some really important things. Gaining clarity on what drains your energy. making space for the things that do actually recharge you that you don't allow yourself to do, better balance in your life and work, and discovering how to do more of what matters to you so that you find more joy and well-being for both you and your loved ones. And you'll walk away with concrete tools to use in everyday life. All of you who know me know that I am not here for the big fluffy things, but actually the concrete, pragmatic things you can use straight away. It won't be anything complicated. And in fact, the small tweaks give the most immediate impact without the overwhelm of hashtag doing all the things all at once, because I know you're wanting to overhaul your entire life all at once, and it doesn't work that way. So this will give you space for you to prioritize yourself and not just those you love. Who is it for? Well, it's for ambitious working women wanting more balance, meaning, and fun in their lives. And it's obviously facilitated by me, clinical psychologist and coach Michaela Thomas, and I have spent 20 years in psychology working with high-striving and over-functioning ambitious women like you who are senior leaders and entrepreneurs of successful businesses. And having been diagnosed with ADHD myself, I've understood why I experienced burnout whilst I was working in the NHS, and now why it's a non-negotiable for me to use my self-compassion tools and practices to avoid burnout again. And I will show you the same things. You'll tap into this very framework that I use on the podcast, that I use in all my coaching to help you ease perfectionism and prevent burnout. And if you loved my Spacious Year Challenge especially, this will take it deeper. So why now? Well, we are approaching the summer holidays, and this is a prime time for burnout due to having children off school or juggling work with the holidays, and then the pressure to have a perfect time. So entering summer with this permission to meet your own needs too could make it one that restores you rather than depletes you. So why are we doing these 4 coaching calls in the summer, in the month of June? It's because I want to help you earmark the time and make these reflections and actions a priority before summer. Giving you a week on each of these themes means you can absorb the insights and take the actions needed. So remember that if nothing changes, nothing changes. And when do we run this? Well, we run it on Tuesdays at 2 till 3 on the following dates, 4th, 11th, 18th, 25th of June. And I have a bonus for you. The first 5 women to join get 1 week of Voxer support with me. You basically have me in your ear completely free. After the June Mastermind ends, you get 1 extra week to speak to me. If you want to join, click the link in the show notes, but I will read it out for you as well because, yeah, it's just easier. The Thomas Connection, all in one word, .thrivecart.com. Pause-purpose-play. The Thomas Connection .thrivecart.com. Pause-purpose-play. Back to the episode. So, having talked about how slowing down makes you go faster forward, actually, but in a sustainable way, I wonder if we can think about this idea of rebellion again, this act of resistance. If we can rebel against this pressure to be perfect, this image that our sons and our daughters are growing up with, we could actually get our emotional and our physical needs met. We could enjoy ourselves more. So what would you do if there was no pressure to perform and spin all the plates and do things in an optimal way at all times? What would you be if there was more freedom to meet your own needs without any guilt or shame? And what would you have if there was no resistance to rest? I'm willing to bet that you would do more things for yourself. You would be more fun and relaxed, and you have more sustainable productivity. You would actually be smashing it because you're not so focused on constantly smashing it. Allowing yourself that permission to have off days, off weeks, off months even. So, in summary, if you are resistant to rest and you realize that it's linked with this pressure to be perfect, to be a good girl, to do it all, to have it all, to be it all, then resting is your act of resistance. And can you afford not to rise up against this pressure? That's what I want you to think about. So let's start a revolution for my bed, as Oasis sang it. Let's do it. Who's with me? So stay tuned for next week's episode, which will be me answering a listener question that I've received from someone who was saying, if I was 10% kinder to myself, I'd be less effective in life. So tune in next time to hear my compassionate take on this and whether self-compassion helps or hinders us reaching our ambitious goals and making us more or less effective. And as always, do take care of yourself. And you know what? Give yourself the permission for some rest this week.